All right, so starting our stats unit now. Okay, pretty short, it's 5 lessons. Okay, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. Wednesday we'll quiz, Thursday review, Friday test next week. Okay, it's a shorter unit. Okay, plus we only have, what, 2 weeks left? Okay, so next Friday we'll take the stats test. Following Tuesday, the last week, we'll take the quarter 4 cumulative, leaving Wednesday for any makeup stuff that needs to get done. And then Thursday, who knows what's going on. So, but first lesson for stats then, okay, looking at samples, okay, biased and unbiased samples, experimental versus observational studies. Okay, just this year in this class I did a study, right? Okay, I did finished up my master's and we did that study on your guys' perspective on the one-to-one devices, right? We'll talk about that throughout the day. If it was biased, unbiased, okay, experimental versus observational. Okay. So, first thing, okay, we need to talk about the population. Okay, population is the group of people, animals, or items that should be involved in a sample. Okay, so if we look at my study, okay, title of it was Student Perspective on One-to-One Devices in Middle and High School. Okay, so I worked with someone from Alexandria and he teaches in middle school. What would the population be on my study?
Students from middle school and high school.
The high school students in this school and the middle school students at his school, correct? Okay, that's the population. That covers everyone that could have been involved in the study, correct? Now a sample is like an experiment to find the likeness of a certain outcome. A scale experiment is used to find the input of a population. I'm not a big fan of that definition. I like looking at this one. Population is the entire group being studied. A sample is part of the population being surveyed. So, we said the population of my study was all of this school plus all of that middle school, right? What was the sample? Our class, period 1 class, and my 2 trans math classes, along with the students that took the survey at the middle school, right? A sample is part of the whole population. Okay, so like if you look at that picture there, okay, everyone in there is the population, right? Where the sample is the blue or green. The green. You see the little bubbles above them giving their opinion? Okay, that's you guys in my experiment, right? Or in my study. So again, population's everyone that could possibly be part of that study. A sample is the one that are being actually surveyed or part of the experiment. Okay. So, now, when it comes to biased and unbiased, okay, everyone know what biased means? Okay, favor one outcome, right? Unbiased is where it's not favoring one.
I can't see any of this stuff on page.
You might have to re-copy it over. When you go into the content library, click on it, make sure it's all loaded first. So go through, make sure it's loaded, and then re-copy it.
Okay, so a biased sample now. Okay, biased sample. Convenience sample is an example of where it could be biased. Okay, a convenience sample consists of members of a population that are easily accessible. Okay, so really my study was actually biased. Okay, because you guys were a convenience sample. You guys are easily accessible to me, right? If I was to get a truly unbiased sample, I would have got the whole school and picked random people out of the whole school. Okay? But in my defense on that one, you guys are the ones I want to learn from, right? So, based off my title as biased for my teaching, that's the group I was looking to get answers to, right? Okay, so convenience, easily accessible. Another way of being biased, voluntary samples. Okay, it involves only those who want to partake. Now, if you were to take a survey, how many people get emails or calls to take surveys? Okay? How many people actually do them? I don't. Okay. Now, if you were to take them, you're probably going to have a strong opinion one way or the other on it, aren't you? Okay. So when it's a voluntary sample, you're typically getting the people that have strong opinions. You're not getting a good representation of the whole thing. Okay. So that's what causes it to be biased. You're getting those strong opinions one way or the other. Now, for unbiased, you want to do a simple random sample. Okay? Each item or person in the population is likely to be chosen as the other. So like based off my title of my study, middle and high school, to really get an unbiased, what I would have had to do is, at the pep rally on Friday, everyone should be out at the field, right? Okay,
I wasn't there.
this upcoming Friday.
I won't be there.
Okay?
I might be there. Is that during school hours?
Yep.
Okay, then I might be there.
Now, at that, the whole school should be represented, right? Now, to get a simple random sample, I would just go look up at the stands and I would pick random people out of that population. Okay? If I was to do that, I should get people on both ends there, right? I should get results across the board. That's an example of an unbiased sample. Simple random. It's completely random, right? The whole population's represented, and I'm picking random people out of the population. That's a way to get an unbiased study. Systematic random sample now. Items or people are selected according to a specific time or item interval. Okay, so like an example of that would be, if I'm looking at the whole high school, I'm getting a list of every single person in the school. It'd be a list of 1,400 people, right? Or about 1,400 people. For a systematic one then, I'm going to take every fifth person. Am I going to know every fifth person on that list? I wouldn't know the order of it either, right? Okay, so that's a systematic random sample. It's random. So you're following a system to survey. So those are two examples of unbiased samples. Now let's look at an example. You had to order t-shirts for your entire school. Okay, so what's the population here? The entire school, right? Okay. What sample would you choose to help you predict how many t-shirts of each size to order? The football team or every fourth person walking into school?
I would choose every fourth person because, well, if you just chose the football team, you'd get a ton of giant shirts.
Yes. Okay? I mean, just think about offensive linemen. You're going to have a lot of people picking large XLs, double XLs, okay? Casey Ortiz, triple, right? Isaac, do you want to wear an XL shirt? Yeah? Okay. That's not going to be a good representation of the whole school, right? Okay. Now, with that every fourth person walking into school, at some point everyone should be walking in, right? Every fourth person. I'm getting a good representation of the whole population, and I got a system on how I'm going to pick the people, right? We should get people with those large sizes. We should get people with those small sizes. To represent the population the best. Okay? The football team is one part of the whole population, right? That's a convenience sample. And it's not going to get very good size shirts for the entire school, correct? All right. So, now with this section, there's going to be parts where you got to determine if something's biased or unbiased. Okay, here are some biased situations. These are how you're going to explain them too. Okay, your explanation on why it is. Okay, so sampling method is called biased if it systematically favors outcomes of over others. A good sample is representative of the whole population. Sometimes it's not possible or not practical to choose a random sample, okay? In my case, it was more practical to just survey you guys, right? Now, we talked convenience sample, we went over that. You guys were a convenience sample, you're easily accessible to me, right? Voluntary response samples now. Okay, the
You
reason-
forced us to do it.
Well, you signed, you parents, and you signed the paper, I told you it was voluntary. You don't have to take it. Okay, now, voluntary response samples. The researcher appeals to people to voluntarily participate in a survey. Again, often voluntary response samples oversample people who have strong opinions and undersample people who don't care much about the topic of the survey. Okay, so if it's voluntary, you get that undersample of those people that don't really care, right? And if you get that, is that a good representation of the whole population? No. If you want an unbiased survey or an unbiased study, you gotta make sure it represents the whole population well. Okay, now non-response bias. Sometimes individuals chosen for the sample are unwilling or unable to participate in the survey. Mail-in surveys, okay, is an example of that. Okay, so if I was to do mail-in surveys, does every single person, like let's just say it was the West Fargo area, does every single person have a mailbox?
No.
I mean, it's a small portion of the population, right? Okay, but we are excluding those people out of the study, aren't we? So that is what causes it to be biased, because it's not a good representation of the whole population. Okay, going off that, telephone sampling as market surveys is considered biased since you are only serving people who have phones. Does every single person have a phone? No. So again, is that a good representation of the whole population? No, it's not. So that is another biased sample. Now, lack of blinding. Okay? If two drugs are being compared, bias can sometimes be introduced by the human beings involved. Despite their best efforts to be objective and unbiased, make sure both the patient and the personnel involved do not know which drug the patient is taking. Okay? Tylenol. Tylenol is acetaminophen, right? Okay, you see Tylenol, and then you see the off-brand where they literally just say acetaminophen, right? They're the same thing, aren't they? Okay? Now, if you go into a study, okay, and you're in a group that's taking the Tylenol, and your group that's taking the acetaminophen, or you take both, and you know which one is which one are you probably going to go to? Tylenol, because it's the name brand. That's what you hear, right, all the time. Okay? So if you don't have that blinding of which one is which, you're probably going to lean towards the name brand one, aren't you? So when you were doing a study like that, you need to have that blinding factor and not know which one is which. Because then, have you ever watched, there's probably them on TikTok and all over the place, where they just put two plates in front of you, right? And you try each food or whatever it is, okay, name brand or off brand. Cereals is a big one, right? Okay, you eat both of them, then you decide which one is which. But if you don't have that lack of if you don't have that blinding, which one are you going to go to? Probably the name brand one, right? Okay, so you have to have that factor of blinding for it to be unbiased. If you don't have that blinding, or you have that lack of blinding, you're probably going to lean towards the name brand, right? Just because of the name. So for unbiased, you need to have that blinding. Okay, so those right there will be your explanations on why something's biased or unbiased. So let's look at some examples. So thinking about the different types of samples that can be collected: convenience, voluntary, simple random, or systematic. Answer the following questions. Marcia wants to find out how other students at her school get to school each day. Which of the following groups, if surveyed, would give her the most accurate sample of the student body. Her innovation class, the students on her bus, students waiting in the carpool area, members of the cycling club. What do you think? Think about what the study actually is.
For innovation class.
Innovation class. Okay, so if we're surveying on how students get to school, if you survey people on their bus, how are they getting to school? Bus. The answers to that will favor bus, right? Okay, and then if you go based off that study, that's saying every single person rides the bus. Does every single person ride the bus? Okay. Carpool area, how are they getting to school? A car, a carpool, right? They take a car. So if you study them or survey them, that's going to say everyone drives a car or carpool, right? Cycling club, same thing, right? Bike, does everyone bike to school? Okay, and if you take your innovation class, that's going to get a representation on both ends, right? Okay, busing, carpooling, biking, walking. That's the one that's best going to represent for the school. Now that is still a convenience sample, but out of the 4 options, that's going to be the best option, correct? Okay, Wendy wants to take a survey to determine which flavor of ice cream is the most popular at her school. Which of the following methods is the best way for her to choose a random sample of students at her school? Selecting 10 students from each period 3 class, selecting members of the boys basketball team, girls softball team, or selecting students who like her favorite flavor of ice cream. D?
Heck no.
That's gonna favor that one flavor of ice cream, right? Hey, me, vanilla. Who likes vanilla? Is their favorite? Okay, I'm picking you
That's
guys.
my favorite. Oh, no.
I'm picking you guys.
I think you made it.
What's the outcome of that survey gonna be?
Probably vanilla.
Vanilla. Everyone's favorite ice cream in this school is vanilla. That would be the results of picking that sample, right? Which one do you think? A. Okay, and again, boys basketball team, girls softball team. That's just one little group of the whole school, right? And that's another convenience sample. Now, if I
Mr.
s-
McAvoy? If you erase, if you use the eraser tool, it just tells you all the answers.
Yeah, I had to white some stuff out.
Alright.
Okay. Now think about it, period 3. Everyone has a period 3, right? I mean, we're counting open periods as part of it. Everyone should be here at that point, right? So we got the whole population represented, and then we're going to each class and picking 10. That's one of those systematic random samples, right?
This doesn't seem very mathy.
It is.
Alright, good to know.
It is. Okay, it's just making sure when you do your math, you get a good representation. Like this is all the stuff you do before you do a study. Like before I gave you guys that study, this is all the types of stuff that I had to do to make sure I had a good representation.
Alright.
Okay, so you would like to know how West Fargo High School juniors feel about the school launch without asking every junior. Okay, what do we got? 350 juniors? Okay, you plan to randomly sample 50 juniors. Let's determine if this is biased or unbiased. Asking every 4th person in the lunch line.
That's biased.
Why?
Because it only takes into account the people at the lunch line.
Good. Does every single junior go through the lunch line? No. So are we representing the whole junior class?
No.
No. Not everyone goes through the lunch line. How about by asking 2 random people at each lunch table?
Okay, normally I would say that's unbiased. However, considering this is a high school, some people might not be in the lunchroom. They might like go out and grab like McDonald's or something.
Yeah.
I want it's so I know the answer is unbiased, but I do want to just point that out.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's the gray area of all this, okay? Now you go, let's say we go to a school where you don't get to leave for lunch. Everyone's gonna be somewhere in the school, right? Eating, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I knew the answer. I just wanted to point that out.
Yep. Okay. But the fact that we're going to each lunch table and we're picking 2 random juniors there, that's a random sample, isn't it? Now, by asking every 8th person on the junior class roster,
Unbiased.
that would be unbiased, right? And again, that one is a systematic random sample. I don't know every single junior in the school, right? I get a list of it, pick every 8th person. I'm not gonna know every 8th person, right? So I'm not picking specific people that I want to take the survey. It's completely random. And we got a system that we follow to have each person take it, right? All right, questions there? All right, so come up with a biased and unbiased way of surveying. Okay, the situation is, what would be a good and a poor way to randomly poll 20 local McDonald's employees about their job satisfaction?
Well, if you ask them in McDonald's, they might be a bit biased because they don't want to lose their job talking bad about the company.
Yeah, that'd be one way.
Maybe as they're like leaving work, they'd be a bit more unbiased.
Yep.
'Cause, like, that way, A, you know that they actually work there, and B, they're not like under peer pressure by their peers to say something good about the company.
Yep. Good. Okay, and then let's think, how many McDonald's are in the Fargo-Mora area?
A lot.
A lot, right? So what if I was just to go to one McDonald's,
That's pretty biased.
right? Because the whole population in this situation would be every single McDonald's in the area, correct? So if I just go to one, there's a convenience sample, right? You could go to McDonald's where the employees really like the manager and they actually like their job, right? Go to the other end of town, they have a really bad manager, they're probably not gonna like their job, right? You gotta have a representation of both ends of the spectrum on it. So, we're biased, pulling one McDonald's out of the whole area. Is that the only biased way of sampling? We covered a few already, right? Unbiased. Let's say I don't know this, but let's say there is 10 McDonald's in the Fargo-Moorhead area. What'd be an unbiased way? So let's say there is 10 McDonald's.
When you say 2 or 3 people from each McDonald's at random.
Pulling 2 random employees. From each site. And that would be that systematic random sample, right? You're picking 2 random people from each site. So there's 10 of them, and it's gonna get you your 20 samples or polls that you need, correct? That's the only unbiased way of doing it. And you can get a list of every employee in the Fargo-Moorhead area at McDonald's, right? Picking every 5th person or something like that. Questions there? Okay, so let's look at different types of studies now.
Does making a full anonymous page anything like
Say it one more time, speak up a little bit.
like anonymous, does that change anything with the bias or unbiased?
Yeah, a bit.
Yes, because if it's,
It really
When you
depends
get
on
to
the
that,
demographic.
it's more,
It honestly just depends on the demographic.
like just keeping data anonymous, and it's just like when I took your guys' study, it had to be anonymous, cause I can't tie the results back to you guys. For most studies, you got, it,
Can I say
the
something?
majority of studies will have to be anonymous unless it's like an experimental where you're looking for, you gotta know that person, you gotta know the results.
Can I say another reason that being anonymous is actually a bit less biased? Like, if it's something that many people could see, somebody who's being surveyed might be like, I think this, but my friends might read this magazine, so I'm gonna put this instead.
Yeah, and staying anonymous makes it so when you're actually doing it, makes it truthful answers as well, right? It's gonna, if it's not, it's gonna start pulling that bias because, oh, I want them to think this about me instead of giving my honest answer. So yes, it does make it a little more biased when it's not. Like in my case, I had to keep it anonymous based on laws also. So I can't tie that back. Okay, so let's look at different types of studies then. Okay, we got experimental studies. Okay, assign people or things to groups. One group receives treatment and the other does not, looking for a change or effect. Okay, these experimental studies, they typically involve control groups. Okay, we talked about acetaminophen and Tylenol, right? Okay, we could bring in a bunch of people that get headaches. Okay, we're gonna have a group that's gonna take actual Tylenol, we're gonna take a group that's just taking a placebo drug. Everyone know what a placebo is?
It doesn't do
Just a
anything.
sugar pill, right? Okay, the one group will actually give the Tylenol to, the one group we're just gonna give a placebo to. Okay, then we can actually see the effect between Tylenol and the placebo, seeing if Tylenol actually works, right? Okay, because some people might take that placebo and say, oh, it worked. Well, guess what? We gave you a sugar pill. Okay, so that's where we see, we gotta break it up into two groups so we can see the change in effect between the two. Okay, good example right now, we get vaccines, right? Okay, when they were doing their study, some people were actually getting the vaccine, some people weren't. They were just, I don't know what they were giving them, but it was not the COVID vaccine, right? Okay, that's part of it. Okay? You have to do that to see the effect of whatever you're testing. Okay, what is that? Access testing, there's a bunch of different places in town that do those types of studies as well, right? Okay, so when you turn 18 and you decide to do that, there's a chance you might just get a random thing they're not testing. They might give you a placebo. Okay? They might give you the actual, okay, some of our lotions, they might just give you a normal lotion where they'll give you the one they're testing. Okay, because they're trying to see the effect of whatever they're trying, or whatever they're testing, right? See, does it actually work? Okay, and to test that, you need to have that change or effect based on what's already out there, correct? So observational study then, measure of a sample without trying to affect or change the participants. An example, count the number of cars that pass by that are a certain color. Because if you just sit at your house or wherever, and you look out the window, and you watch the cars go by, and you tally what color each car is, are you going to have any effect on that? No, you're just observing it, right? So that's an observational study. Okay, you're observing something. So let's determine, given a study, if it's observational or experimental. Study the effect of calcium supplements given to young girls on bone mass by comparing data between a group that is given supplements and a group that isn't. Experimental. Okay, we broke it down, right? We had a control group. Okay, we had a group of girls that took the supplement, we had a group that didn't. Okay, and then we compared the results of the two groups, correct? We ran an experiment to see which one worked better. Okay, or if the actual supplement gave them better bone mass. Okay, number 2, study of the amount of time college students taking a full course load spend watching TV. What do you think? Observation. We're not going to have any effect on a college student on how much TV they watch, right? Okay. I know I'd probably be at the high end on that one, because anytime I was done with class, I'd go watch Lost. Anyone seen Lost? It's a good show, isn't it? Well, first few seasons were good, then it got all weird. You know what the ending is? I don't even understand the ending.
Still it.
after a few seasons.
Huh?
I said skillet.
I don't know what it is. I have no idea. It's so abstract. You can go so many ways with it. Okay, number 3. Study the popularity of Crocs among students at West Fargo High School. Observational or experimental? Observational. Okay, so if I decided to go do that right now, did I have any effect on who wore Crocs today? No, I would just be observing, right? Tally how many people actually are wearing them. Break students into 2 groups. One that eats breakfast and one that does not. Compare the results at a common test. What do we got there? Experimental. Okay, broke it up into two groups, right? When they start talking about control groups like that, that should be the indicator of experimental. Okay, so in this case, I'm comparing the result of who ate breakfast and who didn't, right? We ran an experiment. Study the color of cars passing by your house to determine the most popular color. Observational. Again, I don't have any effect on the cars that drive by my house and what color they are, right?
Mm-hmm. You're just looking.
I'm just observing what's happening. All right, any questions? All right, so homework, biased or unbiased worksheet. Okay, so the types of samples are all right there. Okay, that's what you'll use to explain why you decided biased or unbiased. Okay, so those first 11 problems are that. 12 through the rest, kind of coming up with your own. And then number 12, determining which one's the best sample to use. Questions from today? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 more lessons for the year. Coming to a close, right? Yesterday's test went pretty well. This is another test that can go well. It have for the last 4 years, so I'm hoping it stays that way. Okay? But don't. There's still 2 weeks left of school, right? Finish it up, and you got 2.5 to 3 months, whatever it is for summer. Okay? Finish out the year. Make sure we do well. And I know a lot of people can do well on this. I've seen it. So let's use the last 20 minutes here. Work on that worksheet. Stay busy.